Hello and welcome to Levant TV headlines. Iranians celebrated in the streets after negotiators reached a framework for a nuclear deal that could bring their country in from the cold, hailed by US President Barack Obama as an historic understanding with an old adversary. Saudi King Salman told US President Barack Obama that he hoped a final nuclear deal between world powers and Iran would strengthen regional and world security, official media said. Al-Qaeda militants controlled large parts of a provincial capital in southeastern Yemen on Friday, a day after freeing 300 inmates in a jailbreak in the chaos-racked country, residents said. Houthi fighters and their allies have pulled back from the central Aden district of Quetta after overnight clashes with gunmen loyal to President Abd-Rabbu Mansur Hadi, residents and local officials said on Friday. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan urged the government to replace private security guards with police forces in the wake of two deadly shootouts in a week that sent shockwaves through the country, reports said Friday. Now let's take a look at the top headlines in today's newspapers in the Middle East. Starting with Egypt, the Egypt Independent leads, stating that more than 500 have died in Yemen in the past 2 weeks. UN Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Valerie Amos, said tens of thousands of people have fled their homes, some by crossing the sea to Djibouti and Somalia. She added that all sides must avoid targeting hospitals, schools, refugee camps and civilian infrastructure, particularly in civilian areas, while the UN was working with local authorities to provide emergency health kits and generators. The agency said in its report that more than half of the 25 million people in the country already live in poverty, while there are 330,000 refugees from previous conflicts. From the UAE, the Khalij Times reports that no deal was met yet on timing of sanctions relief for Iran. France's foreign minister warned Friday that the tricky issue of when crippling sanctions on Iran would be lifted following a framework deal over its nuclear program was not yet solved. Laurent Fabius spoke after Thursday's agreement aimed at curbing Iran's nuclear drive, hailed as historic. Under the framework, Iran agreed to sharply curtail its nuclear program in return for the lifting of sanctions that have crippled the country's economy. Lebanon's Daily Star reports that the United States is closely monitoring Iraqi forces in Tikrit amid allegations of human rights abuses committed by Baghdad's troops and allied fighters in an assault to retake the city, a U.S. military official said Thursday. It was unclear if executions and other alleged atrocities had taken place, the senior military official told reporters, but that's exactly what we're going to be watching for as Iraqi forces move to secure Tikrit. Iraqi troops backed by military groups and US-led airstrikes took back Tikrit from ISIS last week. Now let's take a look at the top Middle East headlines from the UK papers. The Daily Telegraph reports that the world powers and Iran announced on Thursday night that they had taken a decisive step towards a comprehensive agreement that would restrict Iran's nuclear program for at least a decade in exchange for lifting crippling economic sanctions. The agreement, in principle, came at the end of a marathon 8-day negotiating session in Lausanne, led by John Kerry, the US Secretary of State, and his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Javad Zarif, who at times negotiated through the night in search of a mutually acceptable compromise. The Guardian leads its Middle East news, reporting that Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will convene a meeting with his senior cabinet ministers and security officials on Friday to discuss the draft agreement between Iran and world powers on Iran's nuclear program, a deal that Netanyahu has fiercely condemned as a threat to Israel's existence. It is becoming increasingly clear that Israeli tactics during the negotiations have left it marginalized and with seriously diminished leverage to alter the outcome if the deal is ratified at the end of June. The Independent reports that 1 week after Saudi Arabia controversially began its aerial bombardment of Yemen, the country's Shia rebels have captured the palace that last was President Abd-Rabbu Mansur Hadi's last seat of power before he was forced to flee the country. It represents a major blow to the international coalition led by Saudi Arabia, which has offered refuge to President Hadi after he was ousted by the Iran-backed militants known as Houthis. Now let's take a look at the top Middle East headlines in the international papers. From Germany, the Deutsche Welle reports that at least 7 Egyptian soldiers were killed on Thursday in attacks by suspected militants in the country's increasingly restive Sinai Peninsula, officials said. 8 others were wounded in the apparently synchronized attacks, and the ensuing clashes with security forces claimed the lives of at least 7 assailants as well. And finally, China's Global Times reports that Russian Foreign Ministry said Thursday that a framework nuclear agreement clinched between international brokers and Iran will have positive impact on the situation in the Middle East. There is no doubt that agreements on Iran's nuclear program will have a positive impact on the overall security situation in the Middle East, the ministry said. And for more updates, please visit levant.tv. Thanks for watching. From all of us at Levant TV, we wish you a very happy Easter. Bye for now.